Vivo Nepal recently launched the Vivo Y51, and I'm sure the naming confuses a lot of people. Actually, there was a Vivo Y51 that was launched back in 2015, and it had Snapdragon 410. Then the phone made a comeback with the same name after 5 years in September 2020. But the one that I have today is another Vivo Y51 that was launched in December with slightly different specs. When comparing with this phone, the only thing that's better on September's Vivo Y51 is an AMOLED display. Overall, this Vivo Y51 wins, so let us find out why. You get the phone, transparent back cover, SIM ejector, and the usual paperwork in the box. You should also cherish the wired earphones, charging adapter, and Type-C cable provided before they become a thing of the past. As expected of a mid-range device, it has a polycarbonate back with solid side frame. I'm not sure if it is aluminum or just strong plastic. Weighing around 188 grams and with 8.4mm thickness, it isn't quite slim and lightweight as the Vivo V20 SE that we recently reviewed. But overall, one can notice that the build quality is great for its price when you hold it in your hand. The elegant and minimalist gradient back design with a simple Vivo branding on the bottom makes it look somewhat better than its competitors. Don't forget to use the transparent cover provided, though, as the glossy back is a fingerprint magnet. Talking about ports, we have a secondary microphone hole and triple card slot up top. It supports dual 4G SIM and a micro SD card of up to 1 TB. The bottom frame consists of a 3.5mm headphone jack, primary microphone hole, USB Type-C port, and speaker cutout. No, there is no stereo speaker layout on this phone. Similarly, the left frame is empty, whereas the right one consists of the volume buttons and physical fingerprint sensor embedded in the power button. Unlike the Vivo Y51 launched in September, this one has a 6.58-inch IPS LCD display with a dewdrop notch up top. The bezels are thin with a slightly bigger chin. A thing to note is the higher 401 pixel per inch density of this phone when compared to other phones with an FHD display. You cannot go back once you get captivated by an AMOLED display, but the IPS display here is good with enough brightness, contrast, and great viewing angles. Sadly, it has a traditional 60Hz refresh rate unlike its similar price buddies in the Nepalese market. The phone is powered by a Snapdragon 662 chipset, as you can see in the About section. But you may have noticed even some reputed sites claiming this phone to have a Snapdragon 665 processor. Well, technically they are quite similar, as the 665 only has a slightly higher clock speed, which is negligible in real-time performance. With 8GB RAM and 128GB storage, the phone is more than capable of handling all kinds of day-to-day multitasking with proper RAM management. I'm going to say this upfront, that this phone is not suitable for gamers. As you can see here, the playable settings for PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty Mobile prove my statement to be true. Call of Duty does run better than PUBG, but if you want better FPS in both, you are better off with the Poco X3. There is Ultra Game Mode provided by Vivo that helps improve your gaming experience. Despite lower settings in games, I didn't notice any significant frame drops or lags during my month-long uses. There are no heating issues as well. On the software front, we have the latest FunTouch OS 11 based on Android 11. I was impressed with the stock Android-like UI, which has almost no bloatware apps. I also didn't experience any ads or whatsoever, unlike in the Poco or Realme smartphones. There are less customization options when compared to Vivo V20 SE, but I think most people like me will prefer a simple UI. Oh, and if you have any phone with Android 11, don't forget to soak in some new features focused on privacy and conversations like one-time permission access, notification history, inbuilt screen recorder, and much more. The thin rear rectangular camera module bump has a triple camera setup along with an LED flash. The three sensors include a 48MP primary, 8MP ultra-wide, and 2MP macro. The 16MP selfie sensor lies in the dewdrop notch. Daylight pictures from all sensors have the regular Vivo image processing with natural color reproduction. There is a slightly warmer reddish tone that isn't visible in most pictures. 8MP ultra-wide images are okay if you don't plan to zoom or crop in. Since only the main sensor has autofocus, the ultra-wide cannot do close-up shots. Thus, we use the macro sensor, which produces images as expected of a 2MP sensor. Not great, but enough for normal uses. Daylight selfies have similar color processing, enough details, and good dynamic range. It struggles a little against direct sunlight but manages to retain the subject in proper exposure. All sensors except macro support HDR and don't expect much from it except a slight improvement in dynamic range. Thank God we don't have a 2MP gimmicky depth sensor here, as portraits come out fine even without it. The background separation is okay with some struggling in the thin strands of hair. Even with beauty mode off, the screen texture isn't quite natural, but it is to be expected in a Vivo smartphone which is famous for its beauty mode capabilities. I'm sure you'll make a better use of it than me. Night mode is supported by the main and selfie sensor. You can definitely see an improvement with night mode in terms of dynamic range, exposure, colors, details, and everything. The only sacrifice is the noise levels. Despite the improvement, I still suggest you to learn the Pro Photo mode and capture better nighttime pictures. The main ultra-wide and selfie sensor can shoot video of up to 1080p at 30 fps. The color reproduction, clarity, and dynamic range is similar to pictures captured from the respective sensors. The main sensor has better stability due to gyro EIS, but it has slight problems with exposure shifting and focus hunting. In very low light, only the selfie video is acceptable due to better exposure processing and the light coming from the display screen. Slow motion videos can only be taken from the main sensor, and if the lighting is ample, 720p at 120 fps slow-mos aren't that bad. Overall, Vivo Y51 has an acceptable camera quality in its price segment, with the only downside being the lack of 4K video. In terms of security, both the side-mounted fingerprint sensor and face unlock is quite fast. I personally prefer the more secure fingerprint sensor. Other sensors in this phone include accelerometer, gyro, proximity, and compass. No, there is no air blaster in this phone. The phone also has dual-band Wi-Fi 6, Bluetooth 5.0, FM radio, GPS, but no NFC. Now it's time for an audio test from the single downward firing speaker, which has enough clarity and loudness for a mid-ranger of this price segment. The huge 5000 mAh battery that adds thickness to this otherwise slim phone easily lasted me a full day on normal uses. Gaming and using the camera drained the battery more than expected, but I was still able to get around 8 hours of screen time with a mix of everything. The 18-watt charger provided in the box took my unit from 0 to 50% in 30 minutes, up to 75% in 1 hour, and 95% in around 2 hours. In total, it took me 2 hours and 13 minutes to go from 0 to 100, which is around 30 minutes more when compared with similar configuration on other smartphones. In conclusion, the only reason you'd want to avoid this smartphone is if you are a heavy gamer. Now, the pricing is another factor to complain about. I must admit that the pricing in Nepal is higher than the global one. To rub salt into the wound, its direct competitors in the market like Poco X3 definitely outperform this phone in many regards. But how this phone shines amongst its customers is due to its slim build, great design, good camera quality, and stock Android-like user experience, and also that long battery life. That is what you should be looking for in this smartphone when you want to buy it. Now, this is it for today's full review. I will see you in the next one.